everyone. My name is Jocelyn, and I chose to do my author study on Anne Evelyn Bunting, who is more commonly known as just Eve Bunting. A little bit about her: she was born on December 19, 1928, in Maghera, Northern Ireland, which is where she grew up in, went to school at, met her husband, and had three children with. As a child, Bunting grew up with storytelling, which began as her inspiration for writing, although she did not actually start writing until she immigrated to America in 1958 with her husband and three children. They arrived at Pasadena, California, and soon after she enrolled in a community college writing course, thus marking the beginning of her writing career. Eve Bunting has now written more than 200 books, both fiction and nonfiction, aimed at children and young adults. But in my opinion, after learning more about her and her books, I feel like anyone, adults included, can connect to at least one of her books, or at least feel something after reading them. She has won many awards, including the Arab American Book Award, the Edgar Award, the Golden Kite Award, the Regina Medal Award, and many others. I'm going to go through some of her books before focusing on just one. I chose to show these specific books because I wanted to showcase the diversity that runs through her books. The first book that I'm going to talk quickly about is called How Many Days to America, a Thanksgiving Story. This story is about a family who was forced to leave their Caribbean island and set sail to America in a small fishing boat. The second one is called One Green Apple, and it is about a young Arab girl named Farah who immigrated to America and now feels out of place because she doesn't know the language yet, so she tends to stay quiet. One day, while she's on a field trip with her classmates to an apple farm, she discovers that a lot of the things that she sees and hears are similar to those from hers at home, and soon she starts to feel like she belongs. The next book is called Going Home, and this is about a little Mexican boy who is living in the US but was born in Mexico and is now traveling to Mexico for Christmas with his family, but now, once he's there, Mexico doesn't feel like home to him. He eventually starts to understand that home can be anywhere your family is. Next is A Day's Work, and this is about a young Mexican American boy named Francisco who helps his grandfather find work as a gardener, even though he doesn't speak English and knows nothing about gardening. The next one is Fly Away Home. This is about a homeless boy and his dad living in an airport. This book is actually based in the airport in Chicago, and they move from terminal to terminal to not be noticed by anyone. The boy is eventually given hope when a trapped bird that's inside the airport finds its freedom, and he feels like he'll eventually one day have his freedom too. The next book, before I get to the main book that I'm going to talk about, is called Cheyenne Again. This book is about a young boy named Young Bull and is based in the late 1880s, who was taken away from his parents and sent to a boarding school to learn the white man's ways. Throughout the book, he struggles to hold on to his heritage and eventually is able to find a balance between both. The book I want to focus on today is called Dreaming of America, an Ellis Island Story. I chose this book because I feel like Eve Bunting can relate more to it because it is based on a girl named Annie Moore who is from Ireland and is immigrating to America, which is exactly what Eve Bunting did. While this book is classified as fiction, it is based on the true story of a girl named Annie Moore who is coming to America from Ireland on a boat with her brothers. She later becomes the first immigrant processed through Ellis Island in America. The story of the trip on the boat is not all accurate in the book itself because no one really knows how her trip went, but the trip itself, coming over as an immigrant on a boat, not knowing anyone, being alone, is true, and is also true for many other immigrants. Her book has wonderful images, and Eve Bunting provides us as well with real images that have been taken of the boat, Ellis Island, and people on the ship, so there are factors in it that are nonfiction. In the afterword, there's a picture of Annie Moore with her firstborn child, all grown up. Well, she's all grown up, as well as a picture of a statue of her and her brothers in Ireland that was placed there as a memory of where their journey started. And I found out that there's also another statue on Ellis Island to commemorate the end of their journey. Now, leading up to my learning activities, I based them off of this book specifically. My first learning activity that I would have planned would be a kind of a fun activity, sort of show and tell activity for the students. I would have to tell the students that they are going to another country and are only given one large bag for their things, because as we all know, many immigrants can't come to America or to immigrate to other places with a lot of stuff, with a lot of baggage. So the prompt for them would be that they're going to another country, are only given one large bag for their things, and they cannot bring anything with them that will not fit inside the bag. I will show the students exactly how big the bag is, or actually give them a bag to use to fill up. The students will then go home and decide what they want to take with them and fill their bag up with what they want. In class, the students will share as a whole, like I said, like a show and tell sort of thing, what they would take with them and explain why they chose those specific items. Is there something meaningful about them? Are they important? Are they necessary to them? My second activity would be for them to create a timeline of their life, just showing how did they get to where they are now. They could illustrate their life as a comic strip, as a timeline with pictures, a small book, or any other creative way they would like, just giving them creative freedom to do what they want as long as it's approved beforehand by me. My big culminating activity, leading up to it as a class, we would first take a virtual tour of Ellis Island that is found on the Scholastic website. There are a bunch of audio clips, videos, and photographs for the students to analyze, and I feel like we could do that as a class first before getting to the actual activity that they will have to do. They will listen to the audio stories of immigrants, and I will have the students during those, while they're listening, I will have the students come up with questions that they would ask an immigrant based on what they are hearing on the interviews. Later, I would have them use those questions, or as a group, we'd come up with some questions together and have them go out and interview an immigrant in their town. And it can be anyone they know personally, like a family member, a friend, or a neighbor. The students will then gather their questions and their answers and write an oral history of the person, make it look nice on a piece of paper, and every interview will be published in a class book where we can then publish it online, which there is a website for on Scholastic as well, so anyone can see it. We can just scan and upload it, or we can even try to invite some friends and some families and friends of theirs to come to school and have a reading of it. In the end, I believe Eve Bunting's books are very appropriate for ELs because of the fact that she has written so many books that touch on so many topics which students can really connect to. As you saw throughout the books that I went through, there's so much diversity. She doesn't stick to just one race, one culture. She writes about different people. And I feel like every child can find a book within the 200 plus books that she has written that they can relate to culturally. Not only that, but while many of her books are fiction, they also have many elements to them that are based off of true events, so students will be able to make connections from the books to real life. Eve Bunting herself, being an immigrant, really knows what she is talking about, as she has her own personal story to tell, and somehow she is able to make any reader relate to at least one of her books. Every title focuses on a different issue, whether it's racial prejudice, homelessness, death, war, troubled family life, or the hardships of immigrants. And while these topics are many times hard to talk about, Eve Bunting does a wonderful job at writing about them because in the end, she always gives us a sense of hope.